I like to use the analogy of a little duck who doesn't know how to swim. Now, I want you to imagine these little ducklings, they just hatched. They're kind of wobbling around, walking around, following Mama Duck, and so they're learning how to walk. And within short order, Mama Duck walks into the water. And she swims away, and you got all these little ducklings following her, and they're paddling with their feet. But the duck with Asperger syndrome, well, he has Asperger syndrome of the feet. He doesn't understand how to paddle in the water. So he just sits there. I mean, he's not really in danger. He just can't swim. He doesn't know how to move his feet properly in the water. Now, he knows how to walk. His feet work just fine. He just doesn't, there's part of his brain that says you're in water, start moving, start paddling. Well, that part of the little duck's brain just isn't there. It's called mind blindness. So you can't teach the duck how to swim if he doesn't know how. You can say, move your feet, duck, and the duck will move his feet, and he may go in circles or whatever, just doesn't get it. Well, people with Asperger's syndrome, much the same way, only instead of swimming, it's socializing. We just don't get it. It's just that part of our brain is just blind. It's not there. Just like some people are born incapable of hearing. Some people are born incapable of seeing. They have no vision. They can't help it. That's just the way they are. They are literally mind blind, only they're blind. Well, people with Asperger's syndrome are socially blind. That's called mind blindness. Well, cool. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is you try to get a job, and part of the components of succeeding anytime you're with other people in whatever context, including employment, is you got to get along with other people. You got to socialize. In fact, it is so natural to other people. It's like a duck swimming. You just do it. You don't think about it. But if you are a duck that can't swim, or a person with Asperger's syndrome who can't socialize, you realize how serious of a problem this really is. Well, the sad thing about it is people with Asperger's syndrome, that is someone with autism who has average or higher intelligence, average IQ or higher IQ, they make pretty good employees. But they're not given a chance because of this cognitive bias, it seems, that others have against them because they just don't fit in. Everyone else swims off and just leaves them bobbing around in the water, and they say, "What's wrong with this person? Let's don't. We need to get rid of him because he's weird." Okay, I got 8 reasons why you should hire a person who has Asperger's syndrome, and number 1 is because, well, they're fair. If you put them in a leadership position, they are fair and they are insightful. Now, most people, because they're not mind blind when it comes to social interaction, they tend to put themselves first, because whenever you have a group of people, there's this thing called social climbing, or there may be some other term for it, but everybody is trying to advance themselves socially. If you walk into a room full of people, full of strangers, and none of these people know each other, they're just, maybe you got 100 of them, the first thing they will do, unconsciously, at least this has been my observation, is they will start to arrange themselves in a social order. Say that you have 12 people and they're serving on a jury. First thing they got to do is they got to pick somebody who will be the, what do they call it, the foreman of the jury. Usually that is a person who has the most forceful personality. Well, that can work pretty good, but sometimes this is not a person who is insightful. Sometimes this is not a person who is fair. Just somebody who has a dominant personality can be very unfair, can be very lacking insight. But a person with Asperger's syndrome, they don't have those liabilities. So they actually can make very good leaders if that leadership is supported by upper management. Number 2 is, even if they're not in a leadership role, they tend to make good team leaders. Because you say, well, I thought you said they can't socialize. How can they make good team players? Well, the reason they make good team players is because they don't have that competitiveness. They see the workplace as a team, not as a bunch of individuals fighting each other to outdo each other or social climbing. They are good team players. You don't have to teach them to be team players. They just come that way naturally. Now, if you have ever coached a sport, team sport, you know that you got to teach these guys don't hog the ball. You got to teach these guys, you got to pass the ball, you got to work together as a unit. But a person with Asperger's syndrome, that comes naturally. That is a huge bonus. You got a bunch of people with Asperger's syndrome, that's all you employ. just people with Asperger syndrome. Guess what? You got a good team. They may not talk much, but you got a good team. Number 3 is you have workers who are very focused. Now, these are people who avoid small talk. They're not going to waste your time, huddled around, distracted, talking about, when you get off work. I've noticed many times when I'll go into, I don't know, McDonald's or maybe a grocery store or whatever, and you hear the employees talking, and you know what they're talking about? They're talking about their job and gossiping about each other and talking about how much they get paid and how much they should get paid and their day off. They're just small talk instead of focusing on their job. And sometimes you would not even know they're employees if it weren't for their uniforms or their name tags, because they're just standing around talking like, just a couple guys talking. I know some employers, like in a factory or whatever, that when they build a factory, they intentionally build the restroom so you can only fit one person in it. So instead of having one big restroom, they have a bunch of little small restrooms. Well, the reason is people go in the restroom and they talk. They can spend, an hour or so on the clock doing absolutely nothing. People with Asperger syndrome, it's just the opposite. If you're going to have a problem with them, it's going to be to get them to talk, not that they talk all the time. The point being is they are very focused on their job, not on socializing. Number 4 is they are reliable. And it's not just that they're trying to get ahead, but most people with Asperger syndrome, and I suppose there are some people, Aspies, who are exceptions to this rule, but they're reliable in the sense that they show up on time. They're reliable in that they have average or higher IQ, so they learn to work. They're reliable in that they're loyal to the company. They are reliable in that they don't gossip and fight with other workers. They are reliable all the way across the board. Where other workers may be liabilities, the people with Asperger syndrome are reliabilities. You can rely on these people to do almost anything. Besides that, they are, well, we'll get to that one later. Number 5 is they are good listeners. They're not going to interrupt you when you're talking to them. If you're a supervisor, you ever tried to talk to somebody, give them instructions, whatever, and they won't shut up, or they keep asking dumb questions just to throw you off, or they want to one-upmanship you, and they just don't want to hear it. They like their independence. Well, people with Asperger syndrome, and again, all of these, there are exceptions, but people with Asperger syndrome, they're going to listen. High-functioning autism, these are people who listening is what they do. That's their strong point. So if you give an Aspie instructions on the workplace, he understands usually. Unless it's extremely complicated, they will understand better than most, and they listen. So not only do they understand, but they understand quicker. So, they're more reliable in that sense. They're good listeners. Number 6 is they render calmness. What does that mean? Well, keep in mind that every work environment has what I call a corporate culture. And I've worked some jobs where the culture was the supervisors, even the owner is kind of a jerk, and he likes to talk down to people. And that resonates throughout the entire workforce, and they all do it to each other. That becomes the culture of the corporation, of the company, or whatever it is. That makes for low production. That gives your competition an edge if they have a better culture within their employees. Well, that's where the person with Asperger syndrome can be a huge advantage, is because they render this calming effect. They don't get mad easily. I mean, it's very difficult for these people to throw a temper tantrum. They don't fight with each other. They don't argue. Well, they don't do that much. They may do it some. Now, they may have a meltdown now and again when pressure gets too high, but because they are so calm, and if you have a bunch of these people at the same time, the chances of a meltdown are low because, well, they're calming each other. I've actually worked for people who have told me that somehow I unintentionally affected them. They were anxious, they were nervous, they were frustrated, and then I showed up and just by my presence just kind of calmed them down. I didn't mean to do that, but that's something that needs to be taken into account When you're hiring people, you want somebody who will calm down others. Well, you got to back them up on this if they're the only Aspie working for you. But yeah, they render calmness. Number 7 is, I almost mentioned this one earlier, but people with Asperger syndrome are notoriously honest and trustworthy. These are people that you typically don't have to worry about lying to you. These are people who will not steal from you. If they do, it is an anomaly. It's very rare. These people are so honest, it's almost painful. They won't take cash out of the cash drawer. They just don't do it. It rubs them the wrong way. They will live in guilt for the rest of their lives if they take a pencil that doesn't belong to them, belongs to the company. They'll bring it back. They may even apologize. Well, maybe not. But they're just honest. They don't steal. They don't lie. They don't cheat. Talk about an ideal employee. You can cut way back on your security, if you have security for employees, if you hire a bunch of Aspies, because, these are just people that you can really depend on. And as a bonus, part of being honest, they don't gossip. They maybe a little bit, but they don't. Well, they're just not into social climbing, which is the essence of gossip, is to put everyone else down or someone else down. So you can get a leg up on them in the social pyramid. Well, people with Asperger syndrome don't have a social pyramid. If there's one, they can't see it because they're mind blind. They don't even know it's there. I mean, they know it's there, but they don't understand it at all. They can't see it. They only know it's there because everyone else is participating, but they got no idea. Again, they're the duck that can't swim. So these are people that are honest and they are trustworthy. Number 8 is they tend to be highly organized. So if you need somebody in your corporation that will organize things, and again, you got to back them up on this because neurotypical people tend to resist organization, particularly if it's somebody else who is doing it, and particularly if that other person is good at it, because that makes them look bad. And neurotypical people, keep in mind, they're always thinking of social climbing. That seems to be the fundamental basic thing that is on their mind, particularly at the workplace. They're not focused as much on producing a good quality product as they are on social climbing within the environment of the workplace. They're not as focused on social or on customer service as they are in being high on the totem pole when it comes to social interactions with other employees. Now, those other things may be important to them, customer service, making a good product, but still, the most important thing to them is getting ahead socially. It's job security from their point of view, but not so with a person with autism, with high-functioning autism. They're organized. But the reason I say that is neurotypical people don't want somebody who is more organized than they are because it makes them look bad. They'll see that as being kicked down the social ladder a rung or two, which is not at all what the Aspie is trying to do, but nonetheless, that's the way it will be perceived. And I say that to say this. If you hire an Aspie to help with your organization, to make things run smoothly, you got to keep in mind there's some people who are going to resent that, not logically, not cognitively, but emotionally. And if you get a bunch of them rejecting it all at the same time, then you're going to have a serious problem. Okay, think of Temple Grandin, right? She went into the livestock industry, and she showed them how to organize properly. What a tremendous value that was. Now, imagine having a Temple Grandin working for you, helping you organize your business. I mean, what a tremendous edge that would be over your competitors. But you got to keep in mind, when you have this person with autism, high-functioning autism, that he or she is going to need support from upper management because the rank-and-file workers are going to rip them to shreds first opportunity they get. You want to keep on talking? All right, let's keep hanging out. All you got to do is click on one of those 2 rectangles. But if you're done, all right, thanks for stopping by, and see y'all next time.